Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Cone Dodger here. Welcome back to Automation, the Car Company Tycoon game. And I am once again joined by Caswal. Say hello.
Hello.
Wow, he was so ready to say hello.
Well, your hello was so keen. I just thought I needed a nice keen hello. Otherwise it doesn't match.
I'm so known for my keen hellos. But what we're all ready for is this thing to be highlighted on the top of this column. The
Yeah,
campaign.
it'd be good if it did actually highlight.
Well, that would be nice, huh? But then you click campaign and it tells you that it's still in development. But the Lite Campaign is here. So I guess the first question I have is, why Lite Campaign at all?
Oh, if you click on it, it'll give you a little summary window
Look at that.
that explains
You guys are so
this.
prepared.
Yeah, I know, hey, not bad.
All right,
But
so
basically, the best way to think about this is sort of a prototype for the campaign. So has a much more sort of simplified sales model. It's not as complex as what the real sales model will be and things like that. But it sort of gets through the main sort of gameplay loop of sort of designing cars. They sell to the market, you get money back, you do more cars and sort of things like that. So the sort of very core systems are sort of there, but they're not as fleshed out as they will be.
that's a good description because you realize anybody that's actually going to play this is not going to read the screen.
Yeah.
Users, we're terrible.
Yep.
But that brings us to this lovely looking screen. We have nothing to resume, so I suppose we make a new game.
Yep.
Things happen.
Dum, 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 dum,
Aha,
dum. Boom.
a map.
This setup screen. So you can select which country you want to start, and it tells you about the country over in the right, sort of what they like and dislike.
These are the same countries we know from before.
Yeah.
Previously in my Let's Plays, I've always been in Casmea, because it's very America.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about the other ones, and just going by what I know, I'll probably stick to Casmea.
Yep.
And would you say that's the easiest one to start with?
It's the biggest market, and they've got the most money.
That makes it
So,
easier.
yeah, so it does make it easier.
I see I haven't changed anything, I haven't touched anything, but down at the bottom right, I see a term that scares me. Difficulty.
Yeah.
Brutal.
So yeah, so this hasn't been through much of a balancing round yet. So the default settings are little bit out of whack. So I'd probably recommend. So you've got the cash and competition section. So probably up your starting cash up from 1 billion to probably 2-ish. If you mouse over the heart, it will tell you that that's how desirable your competitors are. So probably take that down to sort of 0.8, 0.75.
Gotcha. So that, like, every car that's in the game already, in the virtual pool of cars, makes them less desirable.
Yeah. So then your car appears to be more competitive because it's better in inverted commas to the competition that apparently is being sold rusty or something from the showroom or something to make them less desirable.
This suddenly just became a dating simulator, but okay.
Yeah.
This, I assume, is like the same thing, but like the value of the cars or the price of the cars.
Yeah. So you can make the competitors more expensive or cheaper by default. So it's just slightly different along those lines. And then you can also decide sort of what your base company tech is and what sort of and what engineering team that you have. Your engineering team never dies. They'll stay with you for the entire portion of the campaign.
They will never
won't
die.
retire rather than like dying by like freak golf course accidents or something like that. So the other sort of mechanic within the Lite campaign is it's sort of different from the full campaign is it sort of gives you a score based on sort of how many cars you're selling and how much money you're making per car and what sort of cars you're selling. So the easier you make it for yourself, you can see the score multipliers now beneath 1, so it's harder to build up such a big score.
Okay, so if you play in a harder difficulty, you could technically get a higher score.
Yeah. Pelix decided to try and have a go with the score multiplier at 17. Basically everything ramped to the hardest setting.
And how did that go?
I haven't heard back. I can't remember how it went for him.
He was never heard from again.
Yeah.
All right, so now I've done this a little bit out of order because, user.
Yeah.
The next one to the left is your team. And is this where you should start, or should you start with the company tech? Do you need to modify this stuff?
I mean, it all sort of depends when you're playing and things. Like, there are some company techs that help you a lot more early on, and then become less important later on. So early sort of wheels and brakes are pretty bad, and so putting some tech pull in them can help you if you're starting in sort of 1946. You can get better wheels and brakes on your car. You'll get like disc brakes unlocked a bit earlier, stuff like that. Your engineering team, or like putting together a team of engineers, helps reduce your engineering time for a car.
So you have you can leave this stuff blank here. Is what you're saying?
Yeah. So it's all at 0 points. So because the more people you add, the easier you're making it for yourself.
Gotcha.
So your score multiplier goes down. So we can just leave it all blank and
Well,
not touch
let's
anything.
go to maybe 1970. That seems like a
Yep.
decent enough era. It's not getting into the terrible. That brought us up to hard on difficulty.
Yeah. Because as time goes on, you get more people or more competitors to play against. So
Gotcha.
the markets get a bit harder. So it's a little bit harder to get going, but should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's been playing this game, I think, longer than I have, and you should know what you're doing. So I'm going to lean on you a little bit.
All right.
So here
First
we
thing you
are.
might want to do is just hit the pause in the top left, although it doesn't really make any difference because nothing's going on with the company right now. It's not like money's pouring out or anything.
Right, yeah, that's one of the things I was wondering about. Like, when you go into it, you start a business, all of a sudden you're just hemorrhaging money and you don't even know why.
No, it doesn't do anything like that.
You have to make a car first, basically.
So this is a bit like the car manager screen, but it's more about projects rather than individual models, like in Sandbox. So we've got some more buttons along the top. So sales is your sales, but if you click in there, obviously it's just going to be empty
You
because
have
we've currently
nothing.
got nothing on the market.
Nobody
Market
knows about
awareness is your penetration. So how many people know about you. So you can see in the top left, the current region selected is Gasmia, which is your home region where you started, and you sort of start with a base 30% awareness. And as you sell more cars into these various demographics, your awareness will go up.
Gotcha. And the ones that are in red, people aren't aware of at all? Is that what?
Yeah, these don't really exist as demographics yet. The Gasmians really hate city eco. There are 0 buyers.
None. Just none. Nobody's going to buy a single one of them. Now, I mean, knowing my history, the first place I would go is, this kind of range. But that's not going to be an easy place to start. It's not the worst. I mean, 1,700 in pony or 2,400 in pony budget. But when you compare that to 7,300 a month in utility budget or the 2,400 in delivery, now, like a pony, the competition is going to be super tough. And I remember from building cars in this era that every car you build basically has some pony car to it. So these buyers are going to be looking at all sorts of different cars versus a delivery
in the
car.
previous sales of the old automation, what it more was is there wasn't that many cars that were very good at pony, and on amongst the competitor side. So the game goes, well, your car is actually quite good at pony in relative terms.
Right,
Because
it's not actually
everyone
very
else
good,
is so bad.
but there's no good pony cars.
So if you click on market sizes. Right. So this tells you how big these markets really are. So market awareness is like you've got a 30% awareness, so you can sell to like 2,300. But this market is actually 8,000 buyers big, but only 30% of those 8,000 actually know who you are. So you can see over here now, utility budget is massive. It's like 24,000 cars a month.
Right.
And then the bottom figure here is there is a little bit of an underlying economy going on. So you can see that like muscle premium is now on an negative 18% year-on-year trend.
Right. Because
So
1970.
and you can see that City Eco is at 100% growth. Basically, this has just come into existence as a concept that people are of a car. So you see that hypercar doesn't exist, but supercar has just come into existence as a concept. So that's why it has a 100% growth, because this is becoming aware as a sort of
When you
car
go
that you
from
purchase.
nothing to something, it's easy
Yeah.
to have growth.
Yeah, you can see that utility premium is at like 858%
Right. Yeah.
growth
That's quite a bit of growth.
year on year. So it didn't exist in the previous year, it only just existed in the previous year.
Gotcha. So it's not
And
impossible that this year we could start designing a city
yeah,
eco car and hope that, it continues that upswing.
yeah. And the final tab, we might as well quickly go into that one, region economy. So that this is a general graph of the general trend of how
From
things are going.
from the start
From
of the
yeah,
simulation, 1940,
yeah.
to now.
And so this is for sort of normal cars. It's a bit of a bad name, but it's sort of everything sort of mid-segmenty, I guess. And then like budget buyers and premium buyers. So it's all slightly. Oh, I must load it in budget by default.
Yeah, I think it loads in budget by default. There we go.
Yeah.
So now normal
Yeah.
was a little bit of an upswing, but now it seems like it's a downswing. Premium definitely on the downs, luxury on the downs. Commercial, as you would probably expect, kind of just stays even keel.
Mm.
And budget now on the upswing.
Yeah. So I guess we could go back to say like market sizes or something like that, and then have a sort of decide on maybe what car we want to build based on.
Well, it would seem, just from what I can see in the little bit of market that we've seen, that building something in that kind of entry-level, budgety kind of mindset would be the way to go, rather than something expensive or, muscly, sporty.
I mean, you should be able to also sell to Farina as well. So if you change the Gasamia drop down to Farina, you'll have an idea of.
So not quite. It's not doing
So there's
terrible.
sort of, yeah. But if it all goes wrong, you might still be able to sell the car to Farina.
Right. Oh, that's a good point.
All right. Well, I guess we go to production and decide to design your car. I don't know. If we decided after all that discussion.
No, probably not. This is how I usually design cars, though. I look through here, and I go, that would be fun. Now, this is all pretty much what we're used to. This update was not about adding content. It was about giving the content a purpose. So we should be pretty familiar with all of these bodies.
There are inline threes now.
That is one new thing that we could experiment with. I don't know if inline 3 1970 is going to be a hit, but you never know. So let's do last 10 years.
Well, that's a wagon variant. That'll have a bit of utility to it.
That is true. I think that has potential. I believe I've used this body. I mean, there's not many that I haven't. It's hard to remember. So that has the potential to work for kind of the utility and the budget. I think you could probably make this. I don't think it's going to be a city car by any means, though. And I'm feeling ladder.
Ooh.
Ooh. Just because I'm trying to keep the thing cheap.
Yeah, see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. You can always change, right? This is we're in the
yeah,
design
yeah.
phase.
I mean, I've never actually built a ladder frame car in the 70s, but, I'm a monocoque man.
There's so many places I could go with that, but I will not. Longitudinal, because front-wheel drive is gross.
Mm-hmm.
You have the option of double wishbone or double wishbone up front.
Yep.
And cheap is good, so let's do... utility-wise, is this going to be important for us?
Yeah, it does take that into account.
Possibly. Again, we can still go back and look at this stuff. Nothing is... You're not designing the vehicle you're producing like your first go-through. Alright, there is our lovely wagon. I mean, it's definitely one of my better designs, I would say. No question. There we go. That makes it even worse.
Ah, yeah, nice and utilitarian.
Primer gray. Should we put clear on it? Yeah, I guess.
Maybe we should change it from being called terrible to the white appliance.
If you say so. Did I spell
And then
appliance right?
and then maybe the trim can be called like microwave.
Microwave. All the rage of the 70s, We'll do rear-wheel drive. You could do longitudinal front-wheel drive with it.
Yep.
Because that's what people want.
Because Citroen.
All right. So, basic utilitarian engine. Again, not my strong suit, but I'll do my best. How do you feel about a mid-sized V6? Does that sound good? Maybe inline 6? V6.
It's up to
Inline?
you.
Kind of tempted to build an inline 3 just because it's there.
The inline threes look quite different
Now I have to look.
because they're based on the new Unreal assets, so they're a little bit different to the old inline four. That's sort of
Yeah.
slightly nicer engine block and other parts to them.
Well, sadly, I don't think it's going to fit our vehicle's theme, so away it goes. Well, maybe I spoke too soon.
You could make it less than 3 liters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's what we need.
Yeah, you aim for that nice high compression in the 70s.
Yeah. Good luck with that. What's our... Can we still do lidded? Or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you'll find out.
All right.
You have to set it to like 15 to 1, really. You riding the line.
Hey, man. It's what we do.
And then the valves aren't very happy.
Why
Your little
is,
push rods are getting pushed pretty hard. You can always like tune it on the quality if you really want to go to the fine grain.
I don't think we need to get that crazy. All right, so here is our lovely 2.8 liter V6 making 115 horsepower. Plenty of the torques and a decent economy for the era. Should be very utilitarian-ish. Fuel sipperage. So now we move on and put it into the car.
Still weird seeing everything in horsepower.
Oh, yeah, sorry. America. So, what kind of transmission would appliance have? I would imagine probably automatic. Like, you're using the microwave. You're not going to go and, like...
Manually fry up your scrambled eggs.
Right.
You can just put them in the microwave.
Just put them in the microwave. Automatic it is. With a lovely 2-speed transmission. Because more is just excessive, really. Tires, I don't really know what to do there either, so I'm going to leave them where they are.
Yeah. Tuning the handling can make a massive difference on how well your car scores. If people are like, oh, this feels like a death trap. Yeah, they don't really like it very much.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of breezing through this stuff, because I'm very intrigued to move on to that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I work, is generally just get the car to a point so you can sort of see where it's sort of sitting and then be shocked
And
at how terrible it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not how good, how terrible.
I would give it a touch more cooling than riding the line. You do get a bit more reliability if you cool past the required cooling.
Standard AM. Power steering now. Wagon, no power steering.
With this nice heavy cast iron
Right.
V6 in the front.
Yep.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
It's great.
They're going to love it in the car parks.
And comfort. Let's just see where our baseline is sitting. It's the sportiest thing I've ever made, that's for sure. 1.8. But now let's do a little bit of fine tuning on it before we even start looking at that stuff. It's still true, man. Every car I build is a pony car. I can't get away from it. You told me this was fixed. It's all I know. Oh, that's a pleasant driving experience right there. Oh, man. I am so good at this game. All right. Jump down. I think that's actually a... because this is a body-on-frame car, you don't get a whole lot of suspension room or wheel well room. Brakes. Oh, okay.
Oh, dear.
That could be less than ideal.
Yeah, the old utility bars and things like the ability to stop while they're going down hills.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, well, apparently drums are just not quite good enough for this, so... I guess we'll have to do solid discs. And even those are not quite good enough for this. So it's got all front camera and no rear camera because of the solid rear axle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not helping anything. But we obviously need to give it more front dampening because of that big iron V6. But we could, of course, increase the front springs.
And then you could probably take the camber out of the front, level the camber out. So,
Oops. Okay.
yeah, I always do the same as well.
Yeah, this, I don't know why, it just kind of leads you to go this way.
Yes, it's like negative. Let's make more negative camber. Like,
Right.
no, the other way.
Other way, other way. All right,
Yeah.
now we're to the understeery side. And that makes people happier. But we want it to be very tame, with no sportiness, basically. So we could go even further with that.
May have to take
I
all
did it
of
again.
the rear. May have to take all of the rear sway bar stiffness out.
Yeah, you would not expect a sway bar in this kind of car at all in the rear. The birds, they are chirping.
Oh, you can hear them.
Yeah.
It's not a TUI though. No R2D2 sounds for us.
All right, so
I think that's as much as we're going to manage to squeeze out of this guy.
Yeah. Not really improving anything at this point, but we're just making
Family
things worse.
utility is getting up to 84.6 though.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. All right. So let's see. I didn't really spend too much time here on the interior, but I don't think that any of this.
So what happens? What happens if we give them power steering? Well, they should like that.
Oh, they like it very much.
Oh, look at that!
Now they can make that 6-point turn in the parking lot. This is really not that large of a vehicle. I didn't look at the weight, but I don't think it's like ginormous.
2,421 pounds is what the weight says.
Really? Where do you see that? Oh yeah, that's nothing. All right. Do I want to really mess with anything else here? It's not too shabby.
Maybe just flick a couple of different interior options and just see what family utility thinks. If you flick at the standard, what do they think?
Small improvement. Let's look at the. Yeah, but then it starts to get
pricey.
What about safety? Do they really care about safety? Probably so. Advanced safety. They really like it, and it actually did not hurt the affordability too terribly.
Yeah. All right.
So that's worthwhile, I suppose. And I mean, it's starting to look a little bit better.
So if we go into markets, let's see how we're going.
There's green. That's encouraging. It could have been much worse, but we haven't added any markup to it.
Yeah. Now, this is one of these chicken and the egg problems, right? So the price at the top is the estimated price, but it has no idea what sort of factory it's gone into.
Gotcha.
So currently it overestimates what the production price would be. Generally, most setups, it will come cheaper than that for you to produce.
Gotcha.
So you will be scoring even better. So there's a second market screen post the factory setup to give you an idea of what it actually is like once it enters production.
And one of the things that I think I misunderstood when I was first messing with this is just how much of a markup to expect. Like, I would always be like, oh yeah, we'll give it a 5% markup and that'll be fine. In reality, you can't really turn a profit that way.
Yeah, especially. So what this screen is sort of doing is it's trying to also include your factory costs in the estimated price to try and work out really how much this costs to produce by how much you have to spend on the factory to build it. But factories get reused, so although the first car you build, the game we'll see in the production summary, the game will say, well, actually it's going to take 10 years for this car to pay itself back, or 20 years for this car to pay itself back. But it's like, well, the next factory, the next car you build is using the same factory and just pays a sort of 20% cost to sort of retool it to the new setup.
Gotcha.
And so there's some costs that have to be like amortized across multiple cars. And so it's sort of, that's why this sort of estimated price is a bit strange, because what does it really mean? It's hard to really give a really great value for what the game reckons it should be at this point, because it doesn't know what your business plan is. So,
well, that's good, because I don't know what my business plan is. I am happy to see that utility and family utility and heavy utility are doing decently well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they're excelling, but they're doing decently well. I don't know that I've made all of the the most ideal design choices that we could really fine-tune this thing to be perfect, but I don't think that's really the goal for the day. The goal for the day is just to show a basic startup of how you're going to go through this stuff.
Yep.
So I think at this point we'll just call this good enough and move forward to the guy with a clock tattooed to his head.
Yeah. He's an engineer. He's spending his time thinking.
And now we're back to the screen that hopefully I remember everything from.
So, seeing that we started with a fair bit of cash, you can probably just drag funding all the way to the top. And so we'll engineer this car quicker
Gotcha.
by giving them more money. Yeah, so 2 years, 3 months. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of keeps
sort of
us
72 million.
within, like when we were looking at the markets earlier, if it takes 5 years to produce it, then after 5 years, your whole market could be gone by then. You don't know.
Yeah. If you're designing a car that's sort of on the edge of being competitive, basically, if your car scores less than 50 competitiveness on that screen, it will not sell.
Gotcha.
At all, right? So if you've built a car that's only scoring sort of 660, by the time it comes to market, there could be other competitors which have just bumped it down because they are just better cars.
And
So that's
how
why-
that has happened in the history of cars. Now the Focus, we could
Doesn't work.
Oh, okay.
So that's currently locked down to be that because it doesn't do the alternative effects, which would be to annoy your engineers if you're just drilling them into getting the job done rather than them sort of learning and stuff like that. So,
Gotcha.
so as it doesn't have an effect, you can't touch that right now.
Well,
What
I'm
you
touching
can
it.
do is, well, you can touch it, it doesn't do anything. What you can do is select your microwave appliance guy, and you can spend more time and more money to make it more reliable. So your company does have a reputation, and it's looking at the average reliability of your fleet versus the market.
Gotcha.
So if your cars are less reliable, then your reputation goes down, and basically the market size available to you shrinks.
Does take more time to make a more reliable vehicle, of course. And you could spit this thing out in 1 year and 7 months if you don't care.
Yep.
But I think probably somewhere in that middle of the road is fine. Now, how do you think this relates? Like your first car, what should your main goal be there? Is this the time to be worried about reliability, or is that just one of the things you'll just have to worry about, what kind of company you want to lead?
Yeah, that's basically. And if people vote for the sort of the various Lite Campaign options, this will partially drive callbacks as well. So
Gotcha. So at this point,
if you're happy, so it's 2 years, 4 months.
yeah.
Move on to the engine section, I guess. I don't know why I say I guess. That is like the only option.
Well, you could.
So
start clicking
in
on people
here
too.
you, because so the car was 2 years and 4 months, but this engine is a bit easier to engineer because it's an L basic push roddy guy.
Right.
You could try and raise reliability on this guy, which is a proportion of the car's reliability, and bring it in line with
Right.
the other
you
guys.
could
Was
make
it 2 years, 4
I
months or
think it was
something?
4 months. Yes. So you could make it.
And you could spend
quite
some more
reliable.
funding to reduce, so you can just
Oh right. Make it super reliable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the things I probably would have overlooked, just trying to match the engineering time of the car to the engine, because that would be really silly to have the engine done a year before for no reason.
That's one thing we need to do is just bring over an additional label next to this total engineering time of what the car time is, so you can tweak the settings to sort of match to what you want.
Right. Ooh, new screen.
Ooh,
Fancy.
new screen. Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm looking at.
So yeah, you hit the plus.
So this is like
Right, so you can decide on where you want to build your factories. So it's basically a repetitive list. The sort of full campaign rather than a light campaign will have a sort of dynamic market of like where you can buy your factory and things like that. And we may take even into account of like it's nearby certain cities, which may give you advantages.
Oh yeah.
because they've got enough population that you can actually manage to staff your factory. So you can't build a huge factory next to like a 2,000 person town because you won't be able to get
Right, you wouldn't get the
staff.
workforce to do it, and
Yeah,
you wouldn't
yeah,
get
yeah.
skilled workers because you have such a
Yeah.
small pool to choose from.
Yeah. And so and the same sort of deal with if you try to build like a factory in a third world country, can you actually really manage to build a huge factory over there?
Right.
So, but we don't have that now, so it's just repetitive. So you can either build in Gasmir or Florinia. If you are building cars in a country that you then have to ship them to, those cars will cost a little more to where you're shipping them to,
Gotcha.
rather than them being built in the home country. So
I would say it makes probably initial sense for this kind of car for medium because it's going to be
Yep.
fairly large production, but
yeah,
we're not quite
and medium
producing a
sort
ton
of
of.
suits the 2 billion sort of starting budget.
Gotcha.
You can build a twin medium setup on $1 billion starting, but you have to sort of turn the automation down so it's a more hands-on factory. You haven't spent all your money on robots or
Gotcha.
other automated appliances.
And then this will be for engine,
Yeah.
which will probably want something similar.
Yeah.
And we're done.
Yep. Move on.
Pretties. So, let's see.
So this is building a small factory currently on your medium-sized plot.
Gotcha. So there's room for activities. What a nice autocross pad that would be. The things I think about.
Yeah.
But we made a medium-sized pad, or we got a medium-sized pad, so we can build a medium-sized factory. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what's the 1, 2, 3?
That's this. This is a new feature, which is so medium one is like a small one, a small medium, and then a bigger medium, and then an even bigger medium. So it's like room to expand. So it's
Oh,
a bit
thank
more
God they
fine
don't do
grained.
that at like fast food places. Oh, do you want a medium? A 1, 2, or 3 medium? No! Too many options. Okay. So, tell me how I would go about making these decisions.
What is quite good is you just leave it here, and we'll just move on and make a decision about the engines, and then later on you'll get some info about what your theoretical sales are, and then you can look at trying to match match the two sizes.
Add-on steel presses is
Yeah,
selected.
which is a requirement,
Okay.
which is why it's ticked on.
Gotcha.
Um,
There's a bunch more.
Yep, which don't work. That's why you can't add them in. Otherwise, you can just spend money on nothing.
Well, in real life, I'm pretty good at that. So, and it's everybody's favorite slider,
The automation slider.
the automation slider. 0. No. So that's just how robotic your factory is, I assume.
And so you get more production units per member of staff employed.
Wow. That's a large number. And then the tooling quality is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You know,
You can leave that where it is because it doesn't. That again affects the sort of chance of callbacks, but there are no
Right.
callbacks yet. So
Gotcha.
so you can sort of leave that where it is, and it'll be fine.
Okay. And one for the engines.
Yeah, tiny. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. And we don't have magnesium or forge works or anything crazy like that, so this all can pretty much stay as it is.
Yeah, should be fine.
You could automate it a little if you wanted to, but let's just...
$560 million build cost.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, it's cheaper.
All right. So tooling cost is 166 million. It seems like we're spending that 2 billion awful quick.
Yeah. There's a summary screen at the very end that will tell you
Gotcha.
all of your breakdowns.
And I remember this.
So, yeah, so we're making 196 cars.
196 cars right here, yes.
So it's, as I say, it's sort of at best to sort of leave this how this is and sort of, because now we're starting to get some real costs of the car. So then the game will have much more of an idea of how big the markets are based on
Gotcha.
on the cost and things. So if we just move on a bit, we can then come back and sort of make a decision. The other thing is you don't need to tweak this right now. You can see that because you're building a basic pushrod V6 in a medium factory, you're making 307 engines at 2 shifts. So you might want to just like scale that back, but you can change it before it actually starts constructing, so it's not too much of an issue. Yeah. So just so that's sort of closer. Right. So then we can move on.
Ta-da!
Ta-da. Right. So you can see that instead of it thinking that it costs like 8,700 or whatever the base thing now, we're now
Right.
about $1,000 less. So
Gotcha.
you can now see that your family utility is up to like 100 competitiveness,
Yep,
even with
that's
your
definitely
15%
come up.
markup and things like that.
Gotcha.
So
And then this one. Oh, this is new.
right. So it. Okay. So these are your free regions that you can ship to. Right. You can't do Arcana yet because we don't have a trade agreement or whatever set up. So that's still till 1990 till you can sell into that market.
Bastards.
Yeah, yeah. It's a bit of a shame. So you can tweak your markups per country using that top thing because, you know, some countries you might be able to get away with marking up a bit more than other countries and things like that.
Is it saying 0% right now?
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
that's 0% on top of whatever your
On
base
top of, okay.
settings.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah. So you can tweak them or even sell at a loss if you're trying to break into a new market or something like that, right? So the 1.1k a day and the 81.1 a day. See,
Those are
Farina really
very,
doesn't like your car very much.
very different numbers.
Right, so that is, in theory, how many cars you could sell absolutely, regardless, like if you had like a market penetration of 100%, that's how many cars you could shift a day.
Perfect worlds.
So you're currently making sort of 200 cars a day, and you could prospectively sell up to 1,100. So you can see that your factory is relatively out of line, or your pricing is relatively out of line.
Right, which it definitely
One
could
of
be
the
that.
two. The percentage is how much of your production can you sell.
Gotcha.
So 562% of your production. So you need a factory like 5 times the size that we currently have got going. But the other thing about all these figures is this is right now, not in the 2 years, 3 years your car comes to market
True.
and other competitors come in. So, you know, we can't sort of magic wand it into the future for you. And then the little 1-2 thing on the end, that doesn't have a label because we're evil. That is just which market do you want to sell to first? Which market do you want to sell second?
Well, that seems pretty obvious in this case. And does
So-
it
so-
probably defaults to the better one?
It defaults to your home region.
Your home region.
So you chose Gasometer, so it defaults to your home one first, and then the other ones
Gotcha.
second and third.
And in theory, you could go negative? Yes, you could
Yeah.
make them cheaper there.
Yeah.
Gotcha. It's not
I
going to
can
help.
see-
They really hate
No.
it. They
No,
really,
I
really hate
don't
it.
like it. And then if we just move on one more panel, that'll give you the summary about the car, the whole project as a whole.
Okay.
So your cost breakdown is 1.484 billion under the bottom thing in the big cost breakdown chart, top middle.
Boing.
Yep. And then you can see how much like the car and engine setup and things. And then feasibility looks at basically all of your various profit settings and says it's going to take 248 months to pay for itself. So the break-even date is currently the 2nd of 93.
We're going to do great. We're in for the long haul with this car. In theory, we need to make some changes.
So yeah, so probably a bit more markup.
Yeah.
And as the market looks quite big, you could probably afford to do maybe the next level up on the car factory, so like a medium 2.
And I would say now is the time to do that, not click the big sign off button.
Yeah, because yeah, you can't change the factory after it's you can change, you know, the factory settings, but you can't go, oh crap, guys, I need you to actually build this massive extension onto the factory.
Right.
Like
And
so
this
yeah,
is the
so-
point where you might want the 2 there, right?
Yeah,
The
but as
3.
you saw with the engine factory, it's already way over producing for the medium 1, so we don't really need to take the engine factory to a
Gotcha.
medium 2.
So I'll take that to a medium 2, and then leave this one at a medium 1. Then if we come to here and click, let's see that we're now at 292 or 294.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, yeah, that is more than before. But now we need to
Yes.
readjust this because it's now below.
Yeah, there you go. That's pretty good.
Pretty good. But we do need to still mark up that car a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, you can do that in this guy. Ooh.
It's moving.
Yeah. We'll leave it like that, and then we'll adjust once it's in production and we see how things are going.
Okay. And
616, 209%, that's a bit better.
that's better.
Because you're not going to be able to do all those instantaneously anyway, because the market isn't fully aware of your car as well.
Right.
Because your awareness isn't
Right.
high because you're a new manufacturer.
So now we're getting really close to that too. But our break even is 1979.
Which
Much
is not
better.
bad for building brand new factories. Like, you know, some of these sort of investments car companies make a design to pay back over 20 years. So having it pay back over 9 years, it's not so bad.
Not so bad. And then you could, in theory, improve upon that by, making a above the range microwave.
Yeah. Or some multiple trims in the same factory to try and spread across to more demographics to get more sales.
Right. And that was the kind of car you could do that with. Like we designed the wagon part of it, you could easily make it a coupe and a sedan as well.
Yeah.
And use all those same assets.
Yeah.
All right, do we click the big white button?
Yeah.
This button, by the way, reminds me of Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. Do you wish to skip to when the car enters production?
Yeah. Otherwise, we'll just be sitting around.
1972. Now, I think we're still paused. Nope, it's going.
Yeah.
So
this is the first month of production where you don't have any cars because it's just entered. The factory's just basically turned on.
Gotcha.
So what you might want to do is just pause it. Wait, actually, you don't have to pause because when you revise a car, it pauses by itself. So we'll revise in because now we're 2 years and 6 months in the future compared to what we were
Right.
before. So we want to see how the markets have changed and if we need to make any decisions. Now, you also see now we're revising a completed production. The timelines are much more restricted. So let's move over to the market tab and just see how we're sort of going. So yeah, it's still
okay.
still reasonable. Yeah. And then
Glowing
we can
review.
go in.
Oh yeah, it's acceptable. It's great.
I mean, it's going to sell.
They still hate it. I think they actually hate it more. They definitely hate it more. What is wrong with you guys? This thing is great.
But yeah, everything else looks good. So yeah, we can just let the game carry on and we'll see how well this guy sells. And then you watch your money go down for a little bit and then up for a little bit because it ticks down as all the costs are taken out and ticks up as the sales are put back in.
Money just went away.
So yeah, so now we can click on, say, the sales button at the top.
Things are happening.
You can see where you're selling into. So the top number is how many you sold, and the bottom number is how many you could have sold.
Oh wow! So we're really, we're selling a lot of how many we could have, and especially family utility there.
Yeah. And if your car is above 100 competitiveness for that sort of category, you can actually sell more cars than the size, but you're sort of dragging in people from the surrounding demographics into yours if your car is really amazing.
Oh, like somebody was shopping for a utility premium and saw ours and was like, oh, well, I guess I'll just get this one.
Yeah, basically,
Okay.
yeah. And you can now see that your reputation, because your car's nice and reliable, down the bottom. So you got the little flags.
Oh, yeah.
So your reputation in Gasmere is going up because it's such a nice, reliable car, but your prestige is going down because it's such a budget utility vehicle.
And Fruinia says, nope, still don't like it. I don't want it.
Yeah, because they're probably not selling anything there.
Yeah, they probably yet to see one.
Yeah. So if we go to then market awareness, we should see that, yeah, your utility is now going up above 30%, so it's
Gotcha.
32.5, and each month it will tick up. And things to those markets. They can never drop below 30% in your home market. But if you go to say Farina, it'll be like you only have like a 10% awareness because, you haven't sold any cars there. So like, who is this guy?
Interesting. Yeah, nobody bought any. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's fine. Oh, we got a thing. A year has gone by. We sold 54,000 cars. Pretty good for a first year, I think.
Only for 6 months of the first year too.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Revenue, 491 million. We spent 737.
Because that's also including the last set of factory construction costs for the year.
Right. So
So
not
your
likely to
next
turn a profit.
Yeah. So if we go back to the production panel, one thing I guess I want to show before we finish up. So if you expand your little white appliance guy, so the stock month guy there, that is a number which represents how many months worth of stock that you have. So if you're overproducing compared to your sales, it'll go into a positive number. It'll be like you have 2 months worth of stock. So if you stopped making cars at this moment, you would continue selling for 2 months.
Gotcha.
Before you ran out. A negative number basically means that people came to the dealership to buy your car,
It wasn't
and there was none left. So we are sort of behind by 23% compared to our sales.
Gotcha.
So we could then go and revise the car and up the shifts, and produce some more. And initially, because your awareness goes up, the more cars you sell, you can. Ooh, maybe your competitors come out.
Yeah, because it just it definitely just leveled out. That happened rather quickly.
So so you can overproduce at the start, and it's not too bad because you can see in your sales you're selling to quite a few less demographics. So you've got some competitors have come out, and because I think you were selling into family a bit at one point.
For sure, and one other one I think too.
You'll be able to see them in market awareness because they'll be the ones who weren't 30%. Maybe not. Pony budget. Oh, you're still selling a pony budget though, I think.
Yeah.
But so because your market awareness grows with cars you sell, you can initially have your factory slightly overproducing and build a stock up, and then as more buyers come in, they'll then start to soak up the stock that you build up. The other thing that happens is that you can change over from one production to another. So when you design a new car, it can take over from the factories that are currently producing a wide appliance here.
Mm-hmm. But you already still have a stock of them.
Yes. So if you're smart, you can turn the production right up and build sort of 6 months worth of stock for the changeover. So when the factory is when the car's changing over, it pulls out from the stock, which is sort of what like GM and Ford do, is they build up big stocks before changeover.
Yep. I know all about that because they store them at the airport where our drag strip is, and there's just like a sea of cars out there.
Yeah. So there's the that's the sort of core of the game. You can see that your little car's made a total profit of 341 million, and a profit this month for 21 million.
Still going, even though the competitor came out, it's still turning a profit. But might be time to start looking into some revisions and stuff like that. Could you then tweak the car, or you have to start from the beginning?
No, we don't support facelifts or anything like that, or adding a new trim to an existing design. The other main thing we don't support right now is reusing an engine across cars yet.
That could be important.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be in the full campaign, but probably not in the Lite campaign. It's got some tricky design issues, like how do you give feedback to the master engine factory, how many engines you need to produce to cover several car variants, and sort of systems like that are a little bit chunky to build in place with the old school UI setup that we have. So that's sort of the main reasoning for not spending the time on it in this version. As sort of stated, this is the last major update for key engine automation. The next major update will be the Unreal version. So this sort of Lite campaign is so we can sort of prototype the gameplay in this version before the Unreal version's done, and then start to migrate everything over to that.
There's still plenty to focus on. Like the little details that are missing, I think you can probably overlook because there's just from what I've seen, this is really the first time I've played through it. So if you're thinking that I'm just playing dumb, don't worry, I'm actually just that dumb. Because I just, there's certainly enough going on that it's going to take a while I think, for me to get a grip on it and to get bored of it. But I'm really looking forward to, like, converting the vector series that I've been doing, that I've always kind of just graded myself on, to now the game's actually going to tell me how crappy I am. So that's a whole different ballgame. So it'll be really interesting to see. And there is a score there Does that
Yeah.
really mean anything, or is it just kind of like a you can show how you're playing the game kind of thing?
Yeah, basically, it's just a sort of give you some other sort of feedback mechanism. I mean, you can sort of generate negative score if you're selling cars at a loss.
I bet you I
Um,
could do that. In fact, I would look forward to it.
if you get into a negative balance, the game gives you a year's grace to get it back into the positive, and will give you a series of warnings, bankruptcy warnings, and a countdown, effectively, of how many months you have to sort this out.
Well, I can't wait
So
to see that.
yeah, so you can run a new factory setup like right to the wire. So you saw that ours or your setup was 1.8 billion and you had 2 billion in cash. But if you're pretty damn sure it's going to turn a reasonable profit relatively quick, you can sort of go into the negative to get a better factory. Because the various things on the factory setup, like if you turn the automation slider down, so the car's a lot more handmade, and you're in Gasmere where the wages are high, you can really see that changes the cost price of how much the car is.
Gotcha.
And then that really affects the competitiveness. So there are various sort of interesting decisions, I guess.
Well, there's another year-end summary. I guess that's as good of any time to wrap it up. And we made a profit.
You paying your taxes.
We made a profit and taxes. 102 million in taxes. Can I just make 102 million? That'd be nice. Can I make $102? That'd be nice. Thank you very much for the tour, and
That's
I do
okay.
very much so look forward to doing a little bit of Vector Automotive Challenge stuff in the Lite campaign, and I hope everybody checks it out and tells the guys what they think about it.
Yep, and we'll be taking a vote on sort of what features to add next. I don't know how Rob is advertising that, but yeah.
Let's call that an episode. Thanks for joining. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.